I hate to break it to you, Raider Nation, but the Raiders may have a problem. And what is that problem? Well, we're going to get into that here in just a minute. But first, before we do, I do just want to thank everybody that has hit that subscribe button and joined the Raider D podcast over the past year and a half. We are only 300 subscribers away from 12,000, and that is a benchmark we are trying to hit. So if you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, and you love the Las Vegas Raiders, and you love daily Raiders content, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. Raiders, if you bleed silver and black. All right, let's talk about what the Raiders' problem is right now. And it's a good problem to have. Here's the situation that the Raiders have right now. We're at pick number 6. We just signed Geno Smith to a 2-year contract extension. He is now the QB1 for the foreseeable future, as he is making nearly $40 million a year. And so you're not going to bench him. And listen, Geno Smith is a good quarterback. He is a top 15 quarterback in the NFL. Is he a top 5? No. Is he a top 10? No. But he is a very accurate quarterback. And the Raiders are sitting at pick number 6 with the upcoming draft. And here's the problem that the Raiders have. We have needs to fill, but when you're at pick number 6, you tend to try and go after the best player available, because when you're sitting there with the potential to draft a future Hall of Fame player, do you pass on them simply because you have a need at another position? And John Spytek has said that's not his philosophy. He's not going to draft need just because we have a need when there is somebody of superior potential sitting on his draft board. He's going to go with the best player available, especially in pick or round number 1. And so the conundrum that the Raiders have right now is, what happens if Shedeur Sanders is sitting there at pick number 6? Because a lot of draft boards have Shedeur Sanders falling to the Raiders. With the Giants making the moves that they've made, who knows what they're going to do? Are they going to draft him or not going to draft him? Are they going to pass on him? I think that they may just actually pass on him. And so the problem is going to be for John Spytek. He's going to have the main owner, which is still Mark Davis, as much as we want to give all the credit to Tom Brady from now on and forget that Mark Davis still owns the vast majority of the Raiders ownership. Mark Davis loves Shedeur Sanders, and he wants Shedeur Sanders to come to the Raiders. And so if you're John Spytek, this is your first year. Now remember that Mark Davis just fired Tom Telesco after one season. One season when he knocked it out of the park as far as how he handled the draft last year. Everything else was a failure, but the draft went really well for us last year, and he still gets fired. And so John Spytek is sitting there. You've got Mark Davis in his ear saying, I want Shedeur Sanders. But the Raiders don't need Shedeur Sanders right now, because you just signed basically an older version of Shedeur Sanders to nearly $40 million a year. Right. My comp for Shedeur Sanders is Geno Smith. This is basically the same player. Highly accurate, not the strongest arm in the NFL, not the most athletic quarterback in the NFL, has moderate athleticism, can escape the pocket, stands in the pocket, has durability, has toughness. Sound like Shedeur Sanders and Geno Smith to me? Yeah. It's the same quarterback. So why would you draft the same quarterback when you already have one? And so that's the problem that I see that's coming down the pike for the Raiders, especially John Spytek, is best case scenario for the Raiders right now is that Shedeur Sanders gets drafted by the Giants, even though they went out and they got their quarterback right now. The best case scenario is they draft Shedeur. That's their insurance policy. That's the future franchise quarterback, and it puts them in a good situation. Kind of like the Sam Darnold situation and JJ McCarthy situation last year, right? You brought in a veteran, but you also went and drafted your future guy. And so I'm hoping that's what the Giants do, because as much as I like Shedeur, and if he was the Raiders quarterback, I'd be all for it. I'd support him. But I don't think he's the best quarterback in this draft. I think Cam Ward is. And we're not getting Cam Ward. That's not even an option. We're not getting him. And so now what do you do when you have Ashton Genty sitting there? When you have Tet McMillan sitting there? When you have Jalen Walker, Jahad Campbell, you have Ashton Genty. And I've said, I know a lot of people are saying, You don't draft a running back that high. But let me ask you this. Would you, and have you, because I'm sure the vast majority of you have played Madden football, and I'm sure that you have gone and played the fantasy part of it where you can draft all of the Hall of Famers to your team and make a super team, 99s all across the board. And who was your running back? Most likely it was Barry Sanders, right? Would you pass on Barry Sanders in the draft this year at pick number 6 if Barry Sanders was cloned? No. You would draft him. Why would you not have a Hall of Fame running back on your team? And to me, that is Ashton Genty. Ashton Genty is going to be, God willing, an all-pro running back in the NFL. He is going to be an absolute nightmare for defenses to deal with. And so a lot of draft boards now, a lot of speculation now has the Raiders drafting Ashton Genty, and it makes sense. But what happens if Ashton Genty's not there? What happens if Shador's there because somebody else drafted Ashton Genty? Well, now what do? Because it's a clear-cut case for Ashton Genty at pick number 6. It's not clear-cut for anybody else. And so the Raiders could do a few different things. They could go Mason Graham if he's available. Abdul Carter, if he's available. I don't think he gets out of the top 4. But let's say Abdul Carter slid to the Raiders at 6 because of his foot injury. I think Abdul Carter is the best athlete and the best probably all-around player in this draft. But strength is a concern with him. And can he handle all of the strength issues? I don't know. Do you go with Jahad Campbell, Jalen Walker, Mike Green? There's some beasts on defense, both linebacker and edge rushers. We need help on both. Malcolm Kuntz is back to the Raiders. 1-year deal. Can we get Batman and Robin going again with him and Max Crosby? I don't know. It's a 1-year prove-it deal. And will he be here next year? If he does prove it, does he then want to get paid Max Crosby type of money? And would we be able to afford him? Or would we let him walk? Or do you go with an insurance policy for the defensive end position and you draft a guy who is versatile, can play both linebacker, excellent in coverage, a nightmare on third down, like an Abdul Carter, like a Jalen Walker? These guys are hybrid defensive end linebackers that are an absolute nightmare to deal with. And they kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You can drop them back into coverage, gives you a lot of flexibility. Offenses don't know what you're doing with him. And then on third down, especially third and long passing situation, you bring him on the edge. And these guys are unstoppable. Their twitch, their speed, their get off, their intelligence, their bend, everything is elite. Jalen Walker is and Abdul Carter, these dudes are going to be elite in the NFL. Do you go that route? And then you grab somebody like a Travion Henderson, Omarion Hampton, maybe even a Scadaboo in the 2nd or 3rd round? Sure, you could do it that way as well. So that's the problem, the conundrum that the Raiders have right now. But you know what is not a problem? Let me tell you this. Having solar power backup is not a problem. Not having power is a problem. And that's why the sponsor of today's video, Vtoman, means so much to us here at the Raider D Podcast, because out here on the Raider Ranch, we simply don't have power if we don't have Vtoman. They are powering everything as we're completely off grid here. And so just a big shout out to them. They've got a lot of different products, from portable solar powers to all-in-one power stations that you can plug into your wall when you have power. Keep it plugged up. Power goes out, you plug in your appliances to it. They're fantastic, from the Jump 1800 like I got all the way down. They also have a bunch of other really cool products. I'm going to be highlighting a couple of them coming up, so make sure you stick around for that. So thank you, Vtoman, for sponsoring this video. I will see you guys in the next Raiders video.